We are up to the fine page. We're right in the middle of a sugya, so let me remind you quickly what's happening here. We are now talking the last din here about selling properties. And we spoke about the machlekes or chachamim, how generous one is when you sell properties. But we say when it comes to a gift, everyone agrees that you're very generous. So if you, for example, retain for yourself ownership of the buyer and you sell the rest of the property, you have to negotiate a way to get to your buyer because you gave it as a gift, including the path going to the buyer. And the same thing applies to Hegdish. You donate to Hegdish, you give everything to Hegdish, including the pits and everything else. Comes along, Reb Shimon argues, he says, when it comes to a Hegdish, why should Hegdish be treated like a matana, that everything's included, even things which are extraneous to the property? The boyd and the dus and the myra are not included. However, I am minded that these special trees that we said when you sell a field, all the trees are included, but not these two trees, the sycamore tree and the carob tree. I agree that they get included. Now, what is exactly pshat? So first, before we understand why Reb Shimon agrees that these trees are sold, we have Rav Huna. Rav Huna comes along, and this is what we think Rav Huna is saying. Rav Huna comes along and says that if you sell a property, I'm holding back a few trees, these trees, then since trees need the soil to continue to grow, especially if the tree dies, how are you going to replant the tree? So if I don't take care of myself, why am I holding trees? I want it. If I want it and the tree's going to die and I have nothing left, so I didn't really take care of myself. But I showed clearly I do want to take care of myself. So in this case, Rabbi Huna says, and we understood, even Rabbi Akiva, who generally says that you sell everything, including the land around the trees and everything else, but not in the case where you're holding the trees back. If you're holding the trees back, you're keeping the earth back as well. So we asked the question now from a brayso. Rab Shimon comes along and says that when you make a donation to Hegdish, even though the boyer is not included, nevertheless, these trees are included. And he gave a logic to it. What's the logic? Since the soil is given away in Hegdish, because you're generous, you give everything away. So the trees, where are they getting the nutrition from? Soil of Hegdish. So therefore the trees get dragged along, goes to Hegdish. Now, Rab Shimon follows Rabbi Akiva, and he clearly says that when you donated, that when you kept the trees for yourself, you did not keep the karka with it. He said clearly the karka goes to Hegdish, and the trees then get schlepped along. So you, Rav Huna, who are you going according to? And you said even according to Rabbi Akiva, who says that generally, you're very generous when you give things away, but not when I'm retaining the trees. When I retain the trees, I want to keep the karka with it. That's why you have to give. That's why the trees get pulled along. But Rav Huna says the land does not go to Hegdish. Rav Huna said clearly the land underneath the trees belongs to the owner of the trees. So Gemara changes his mind. You're right. Rav Huna is saying his whole din according to Chachamim. But you're right. According to Rabbi Akiva, the person is generous. He's also donating to Hegdish the karka within itself, and that's why the trees get schlepped in. However, Rav Shimon says, but not the boyd and not the dus. What's the chiddush of Rav Huna that he's saying that according to the Rabbanon, the land gets, the land is retained. The Rabbanon hold the file, you're not very generous. The chiddush is that not only while the tree is upstanding, but even if the tree dies, you still have the right to plant another tree there. That's the whole Gemara we learned yesterday. Now the Gemara is going to be very troubled by it, by this whole thing we just said that Reb Shimon follows Rabbi Akiva, because there's something not right here from another Reb Shimon. So the Gemara says, how can you tell me Reb Shimon holds like Reb Akiva that what? That Reb Akiva holds that even moicha, forget about a matana. Even a moicha, you're very generous. The only difference is between a moicha and a matana is when you are generous by moicha, so things which are necessary for the house, but they might be metalto, not included. Reb Akiva holds they're included. If I sell the boyd, I included the path to get to the boyd. I'm very generous. But when it comes to matana, I'm even more generous than a meicha, because by matana, not only everything that's negaya to the house, that's mamash, but even things which are not so much. For example, a boyd and a dus get included in the sale when it comes to matana, it's all included. And you're telling me that Shimon follows him. That's why when you made Hegdish, the whole land, the land underneath the tree, the soil underneath the tree also was donated to Hegdish, and that's the problem. That's why the trees get schlepped along. We have a problem with that, and that is basically what I was telling you yesterday. That we have a din that if you have young saplings, we had it before Layach, but if you have young saplings, 10 grow in a beisah. That means every sapling, a beisah is 50 amas by 50 amas, which is 2,500 amas. Every sapling has 250 amas of its own. So if I have 10 saplings, that means the entire land in that saw. When I buy 10 saplings from you, I'm also getting the entire saw of land, because that's what the saplings need. If it's older trees, then even 3 strong older trees take up a base up, because each tree has large roots and so on and so forth. So if you but if it's only two trees, for example, you don't get the land in. If it's less than that, you don't get the land in between. You only get the tree itself. So now one other thing you have to know before we start. When it comes, if I donate something to Hegdish and I want to redeem it, I have to pay whatever the market value is. I donate trees, I got to pay the market value of trees. I donate a house, the market value of the house. When it comes to field, the market value of the fields. But there's two kinds of fields. There's a Achuz and a Zdei Mikne. A Zdei Mikne is a field that I bought from another person. I donated to Hegdish. If I want to redeem it, I have to pay the value of the Hegdish. However, if it's a Zdei Achuz, we had this end of a Yikriv, it's a Zdei Achuz. I mean, the field that I yashin from my father, we have from his father. That field there, the trader makes it much easier to take it back. The trader very much wants you to. Remember, American Kedushin we had that it's a bad omen to sell your first house because it's more than just. We had this in the early. It's more than just a house. This is what made you. This is what completed your person. Mishain Lakake and other. This could be your person. Therefore, you don't just give it away. So the Tater has an inyam as they achuzah, feel that your yashin, it's been in the family heirloom, it should stay there. Very important. So the Tater made it easy to take it back. And sometimes Tater penalizes if you sell it, you can't take it back after a certain amount of time by house. So when you stay achuzah, the other Tater says, if you want to redeem it back, don't look at the market value. There's a fixed price. We take 50, we say that you have to pay 50 shkolim. If it's the first year of Yabel, you have to redeem it because 50 shkolim for a base zera chaymesedim, the size of a field that it takes to plant a koid of barley, which basically is 30 saw. 30 saw is 1,500 amas by 50, which is 75,000 square amas. If you have an area, a tract of 75,000 square amas, you can redeem it just by paying a seller per year. But if it's more than if it's the 30th, the 40th, 50th, you break it down, and now 48 pundian in a seller, and so therefore you pay each year a shekel, a seller, and a pundian, which really is there's only 48 pundian in a seller, so therefore we say that you pay you pay a 49th because there's just to make sure the weights are right, you pay an extra pundian. Now, bearing all that in mind, let's continue the next block in Gemara because this is all about that. Says the Gemara, I don't understand. How does it work? Time we learned, time we learned, if you mark these three trees, from an area that were 10 saplings planted in the Beisa, which means the trees own the karka as well with it. I am not donating the entire Beisa, I'm only donating 3 of those trees, percentage. Higdish is the karka v'sailonis shebenaim. So you makdish the trees that you makdish, the 3 trees. You makdish the karka, and there are any bushes or anything else between these trees. They're all included. That whole shetach is included. So we treat it as if it's land, and if it's land, and if it's land, how do you redeem it? Don't look at the value of the trees. The trees are buckled to the land, and therefore you look at this rule of basically the 50 sloin. Therefore, when you redeem it, you don't redeem in the value, you go to as if it's karka. If there were, let's say, if the trees were there were less trees on that land, or there were too many trees on the land, so a tree like a forest, we don't get. So then those trees do not get the karka with it. So if you donated the trees, you only donated trees, no karka. Trees. You want to redeem it? You got to pay the full market value. Okay, or even if you mark the tree, but you mark one after another, the loyes alone name. So you don't get the karka. If you only mark just one tree at a time, you don't get the karka. So this is only about 3 trees. You don't get the karka. So therefore, if you don't get the karka, you don't get the little trees, bushes, whatever it is between the trees. And now, so how do we view them? You would donate the trees. You pay the value of the trees. Now it comes the chiddush. Afilu higdish es alonas, you makdish the trees, and then the chos of the higdish es karka, then you makdish the karka afterwards. So now in the poil, 2 weeks later, everything is donated to higdish, the karka and the alonas, but you made different transactions. So we don't say, well, let's look at it as if now the poil, higdish owns the karka and the trees. Let's say you poided the karka, the trees are bottled to it and schlepped along. No. But because you makdish it separately, we view them as 2 separate transactions. Because you're paid is a lot of when it comes to the trees, you have to pay the full value. And then the chayzer paid the bezer chay mesayid b'chamisha kesef, and the karka you pay the thing. Now, so what is he saying it clearly here? You donated the trees, the karka doesn't come with it. Who holds that? We said before, Kiva holds moiche ban yofim moich, makir ban yofim makir. So if you donate the trees, of course you donate the karka with it. We said in our Mishnah, the Chachamim agree that when it comes to hegdish, everything gets included. So of course the karka is included. So who says this din over here that you donate the hegdish, the trees, the karka does not automatically get included with it? The only one that we know of is Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon in our Mishnah says that he said that not everything is included in hegdish. So, mani, if a moich, if you would have sold the trees, the soil comes with it. So if you makdish it, of course the soil comes with it. So l'chayda you should be paid like karka. And Irabanan who hold ba'ayin ram moichet. Oh, how many moichus ba'ayin ram moichet? Only moichet. Have a makdish ba'ayin, but they treat both of them treat hegdish like a matana, like we spoke about yesterday. Ela pshita, the only one it could be is Rab Shimon. The only one it could be is Rab Shimon. It says Rab Shimon, because what does Rab Shimon say? Rab Shimon says that a makdish has the same thing like a moichet. The boy, the dus, none of that is included. The path. He says, like we said yesterday, he holds that a makdish is not like a matana. A matana you give because you like the person. Makdish, you want something in return. You want brachas from the Eibusher. That's a sale. You get something in return. Aseh b'shvil tzasher. That's a business deal, a business sale. Others say it should be read Aseh b'shvil shetis asher. Even further than that, give the ma'aseh and you can do b'shvil shetis asher. Although that's right, asher. Just two ways of looking at it. Asher b'shvil shetis asher. You want to become rich in order to give tzedakah. Another one is give tzedakah in order to become rich. Teisha in the Tanya that tells that story there about the guy who gave the last advice to his son: make sure you give, ma'aseh, because that's why we're so rich. And then the son thought he's giving so much away, so he gave less. And every year he got, he's reducing his thing to he became popular. Anyway, bottom line is that Shimon holds that giving hegdish is no different than a sale. So he's the only one who can hold that if you give the trees to the Beis Hamikdash, the soil doesn't go with it. Okay. Now, okay, so Rab Shimon. But let's understand Rab Shimon Gufa. But Rab Shimon, leave it the man. Who is Rab Shimon following? If he follows Rabbi Akiva, which is what you said before, you said Rab Shimon holds like Rabbi Akiva, that the land goes with that the land gets schlepped, that you donated the land, and therefore the trees get schlepped in with the land. That's why he's made in our mission of the Sadlan Hashikma and all that gets the Hegdish. Holds like Rabbi Akiva. So how come when you donate the trees and you want to pay the value, but the karka go with it, according to your understanding of Shimon? Can't be that Shimon is following Akiva, like you said. You're wrong. It can't be. No, boss. He holds like the Rabban. That moiche ba'ayin ram. But where I disagree with you is you say that hegdish is like a matana, and I say hegdish is like mecha. I hold that that what they call that the hegdish is like a sale, and therefore ba'ayin ram. And therefore, when you donate the trees to hegdish, the land, the soil does not go along with it, and that's why you paid it the value of the tree, not the value of the karka, not the fixed amount the Torah says. And therefore, according to him, you hold the land back. It's a problem. You said before that Rab Shimon follows Rabbi Akiva, that when you donated the entire Ara to the Beis Hamikdash, everything went, including the land under the trees, and that's why these two trees are included automatically in Hegdish. But it can't be, because he holds that it's like Mechila, and he holds like the Chabayin Ramaycher. Problem with Rav Huna's whole part. And furthermore, we have a problem with Shimon himself. Rab Shimon here says that the land is not included, as he said here, right? When you want to redeem it, you have to redeem the trees and its value. But yet he said in the Braisa yesterday that why do these trees, the carob tree and the sycamore tree, get included? Because since the land became part of Hegdish, it drags it along. But according to Rab Shimon, it does not become part of Hegdish. He holds that Moiche Ba'ira Moiche, Makdish Ba'ira Moiche, Makdish Ba'ira Makdish. So he said, now let's understand Rab Shimon Gufa. The young Kim is a Hegdish. What do you mean, how young is a Hegdish? That's the Hegdish. According to Rab Shimon, you retained not only the tree, but also the land, the outer as well, the earth as well. Says Gemara, you're right. Rab Shimon holds the following. Ella Rab Shimon l'divrei the Rabbanon kamri. Rav Shimon is saying, Rav Shimon in our mission is not voicing his opinion. He holds that a hegdish is mamish like mech. Therefore, if I'm donating the land to the Hegesh, I kept these two trees are automatically mine. The Shikma tree and the Churuk tree are all automatically mine. The land does not go to Hegesh, and its taka stays with me. The Mishnah clearly said that it goes to Hegesh. He is talking to the Chachamim. He's saying to the Chachamim, I see what you're saying, that you believe that Hegesh is more than just Mecher. More than Mecher, fine. But why jump to Matana? It's sort of in between. So l'chayda be made to me the southern shikma, that I agree with you. The land, because they're part of the land, they're fixing the land. Oh, but the boy, the deuce, why should that be included in the sale? That's totally extraneous to the land. It's just because it's there, but it's not part of the land. It's not the same use of the land. It's something totally different. So at least be made to me that the only thing that gets in this ayin yofa should be like Meicha, but maybe a step above that. That including also these two trees, but no more than that. But he's talking a little chachamim because according to me, Rav Shimon says, I hold the ayin ra magdish, and therefore you don't get these trees either. You don't get the land, nothing. Ella Rav Shimon different. Rabban Gamliel is strong according to Rabbanim. Ledidi, according to me, keheichi the moiche b'ayin ra moiche magdish nami b'ayin ra magdish. It's the ayin ra. B'shiyure mishayeh. I'm believing myself. Oh, but lididchu, according to you, oideli miyah be moide. And not the boy and the deuce, which have nothing to do with the land. The Amr Brahman has a backlash. No, we hold there's no difference. It's like Matana and Gansen, and therefore boy and deuce are included. So you're still not happy. You're saying that that this brisa here that says when you donate to the tree separately, and and then the karka afterwards, the trees are not considered part of the karka, and therefore the trees you have to redeem according to its value, and the karka you redeem according to the Taita's law by their chuzah. I have a problem, nothing to do with the situation with the sugi. We're talking about a problem about redemption. When we redeem something, you donate to Hegdish. There's two periods. There's a time when you donated it, and there's a time when you redeem it. When do we focus on the I and we focus on what I'm trying to redeem? Do we look at the time of redemption, or do we look at the time when you makdashit what the status was? Because the way we're learning right now is we're learning at the time when you makdashit. You makdash a tree separately from the karka, therefore we say it's two separate transactions. You're trying to redeem them both together. At the same time, you're coming to redeem your trees and redeem the karka. We don't say, it's one redemption, and therefore the tree should be buckled to the karka, and the karka, you follow the rule based on. It's two separate, since the time the Hegdish, you mark this as two separate transactions. That's how we treat it now. That's what we just learned. We have a problem because Rav Shimon elsewhere says, you focus on the time of redemption, not at the time you mark it. In what case? Remember, we're talking about as the achuzah. This dinim only apply a field that you yasher from your father. So we're going to talk about a case where you went and you bought the field of your father. You bought it. And then you makdash it. So at the time you makdash it, it was a sdei mikna. You bought it, which means you would have to give it back Yabel to your father. Right? You bought a field. So the din would be, if you want to redeem it before Yabel, you would have to pay the value. But then your father passed away. Your father passed away. So at the time of redemption, it became a zeh because it's as if Yovel, what would happen? Yovel go to your father, but you are your father. So it came back to you now in the form of an achuzah. So Rabbi Shimon says we'll treat it like a zeh achuzah. Why? Because we look at the time of redemption. So how are these two things compatible? When it comes to Yerusha, we say we look at the time of redemption, and when it comes to the case where you consecrated separately, we say, at the time of consecration, this was karka, a separate transaction. The Ilonas were a separate transaction. So we're going to treat it as two separate transactions, and here you pay full price, and here you pay what the trader says. What's going on here? How can it be Reb Shimon? Okay, that's the Gemara's question. How do we know Reb Shimon says what I just told you? So this was the Gemara's Raisa, and the Gemara's understanding until the Gemara changes his mind. Says the Gemara, how did you learn this? How do you explain this brayso that says if you makdash a tree separately or one tree at a time, so the karka didn't go with it, and when you want to redeem it, each tree requires market value. Reb Shimon, continue. What does the end of the brayso say, which we learned before? You makdash the trees, the the karka, then you makdash the karka. Two separate transactions. When it comes time of redemption, we treat it as two separate transactions. The value, and separately that 50 kesef. Now, that's a question. The eat Rab Shimon. If it's Rab Shimon, Lazel Basa Pigeon, we should look at it not at the time when you made the transaction, but the time when you redeem it. And since at the time of redemption you want to redeem both the trees and the land, the Niv to go Agavarayu should be redeemed Agavarayu. Why? In other words, it should be secondary to the land. We heard Rab Shimon say the Ozel Basa Pigeon. He says you look at the time of redemption, the time of the Braisa. Menayin, how do you know? Couple of scenarios. How do you know? If you purchased a field from your father, so now it's a stay mikna. It's a purchase field. Comes Yovel, it goes back to your father. If you donate the Beis Hamikdash and you want to redeem it, you pay full value. Stay mikna. The higdisha, and you were makdish it. So while you were makdish it, it was a stay mikna. The achakach meis of it before Yovel, the father passed away. So now this. Now it's almost like it's chuzah, yeah, because it's as if it went back to your father and came back to you. Minayin shetehela for the chuzah. How we treat it like chuzah? Tamaloim it says v'im estei miknosei. If you donated a field that you bought, asheloim is chuzasei, and the word as we're seeing more later, misday. It doesn't say that it's not an inherited field. It says misday. It doesn't even have a potential to become an inherited field. In other words, you're buying from a stranger. Is a field that is not shaykh to turn into a chuzah. Only then do we say that what is considered as the mikna. You redeem it according to value. So this field is an exception. When you bought it, it could have turned into chuzah. If your father died before Yovel, it would become as the chuzah. So what do we see for Rab Shimon here in Svara? If it's a Svara, the Svara is because you look at time of redemption. At the time of redemption, it's in theory turned into a chuzah. Rameya disagrees. Rameya says no. In that case, we look at the time of his consecration. But if Rameya says, what do I do with the pasuk? It seems the pasuk that has no shaykhus there chuzah. If it has a little shaykhus enough, so he's going to learn the following scenario: a much lesser chiddush. You bought the field, then your father died, and then you makdish it. So even though it came into your reshus as a purchase field, but because by the time you were makdish it, in theory it's like it's chuzah, because even though it wasn't yet, it's theory like it's chuzah, because really you bought it. But had it been Yovel, it would have gone back to your father, like retrospectively. It's as if it became into you as a Yerusha. So at the time of Hegdish, it was already considered like a Yerusha, a Yashlik field. That's why you treat it like a chuzah and you redeem it according to Taylor. Meira menayin lekefem of the mace of the achidish menayin shel fam kisod chuzah the chuzah damalam beim as dem goshel is dem chuzah so the shein is there chuzah yot so this feels different. She's there chuzah. The time of Hegdish is there chuzah. So the ilu Rabbi Yehuda Rab Shimon, but according to Rabbi Yehuda Rab Shimon, not everyone is good as according to Rabbi Yehuda Rab Shimon, heicha the mace of it where the father died. According to Rabbi Yehuda Rab Shimon, I don't need a pasuk for that. It's so obvious. If at the time of Hegdish, it was the father died already. So even though it came into Yerusha as they mikveh, it's as if it's as they achuzah. Then I don't need a pasuk to tell me that it's treated like it's they achuzah. Because the time of Hegdish is they achuzah. Heicha the mess of it. The achidisha like tzichay. You don't need a pasuk for that. You don't need a pasuk. So what do they use the pasuk for? Is ki eats a kra. Taisa says that this line is he said the Seifim who are writing the Gemara made a mistake and put it in here. It doesn't belong here at all. Interesting lashon of Taisus. Ki eats a kra. When do we need a pasuk? Heicha digdish. A pasuk when there's a chiddush. And what's a chiddush? If you were makdish at the time when it was a stay mikveh, your father's still alive. The achekach meis of it, and then your father died. So now we're focusing on redemption. Minolahu. How do you know? If they're just based on a pasuk, look at Amedos. Maybe Amedos is right. If that's all the pasuk is, must be based on a svara. They already have a svara. You look at the time of redemption. So when they look at the pasuk, they see redemption, not time of hegdish. So we see Rab Shimon holds is a time of redemption. That's why I have a problem. How can you tell me Rab Shimon holds if you makdish the trees and then later you makdish the ara? When it comes to redemption, each is treated separately. But at the time of redemption, Lepoil, you were makdish, the land is a hektish, the trees are hektish. Why can't we just say that you're paid to the land and the trees are buckled to the land? Is that l'chayda from Rav Shimon to Rav Shimon? Do we look at the time of redemption or the time of hegdish? No raya. Who said it's a svara? It's a gzeres hakosov over here. Lo'ilam ba'alma Rabbi Yehuda, v'Rab Shimon. Ozli boss opinion. They don't go after the time redemption. They hold also the time hegdish. So how do they know to make this chiddush over here that even at the time of hegdish they mikveh, but since at the time of redemption it was a day achuzah, it's good enough. They found the pasuk. It's gzeres hakosov. How can you tell me someone else? How can you tell me there's a pasuk? But Ameri uses very same pasuk to learn a much lesser chiddush. How do you know to expand on the chiddush? You tell me it's based on the pasuk. Because he said no. You know how I know? From the wording of the pasuk. If Rab Meir is right, Imke lichtav krosh, you just said if the field that he bought, Ashaloi achuzase, that's not an inheritance. Or Inami's dech is not a field of inheritance. What's mih? If you remember, we learned by Kabbanas as well that mih means partial. Even partial. So, but Taylor said, it's not even a partial shaykhis to a Yerusha. Really it's not even partially shaykh. Really this was a row at the time we made Hegdish, it was a row to become a zechuzah. Your father would have died. Therefore, he used it's exactly but you don't look at time redemption, time Hegdish, that's why trees and glands are separate. The mother says, I'm going to put another day in the proof of these two special trees. On the one hand, Titus Elon, although they have a din of a tree, and Titus Kakal, a din of Kaka. In what way? Titus Elon, although the din of a tree, we learned before that if you only mark there's two trees, you don't get the land in between. You only get enough land that you need to support the tree. You know, the Oirei Vesale. You know, just maybe underneath the tree, that's it. But if you have three trees, you get the land in between the three trees. So if you have two trees and this tree, the Sadna Shikma or the Chruv Hamurkov, if that's the third tree, we'll treat it like a tree, and now we'll say, oh, well, you have three trees, you'll get the karka in between. So on the one hand, Titus Elon all the Hege the Agdish is over Shnei Lan is Vahai, and this tree, yes, like karka, you get the karka in between. What do we tell you karka? We have karka. The lem is daven agavat. If you sell a field, all the trees are included in the field. We learned from Avraham Bava Basra Daf. Yeah, all the trees are in the field, but these two trees are not included. They're like a separate property. It's like you have two fields with a mason in between. It's a separate property altogether. It's not included. So you see, it has two different statuses. It could be sometimes it's considered a tree, sometimes it's considered karka. Another din. We know that by shikha, if you drop two sheaves, you have to leave it there for the poor people. If you drop three, you can go and get it back. So if you have a bundle, that's so big, has two saw, quantity of two saw. Toiras on the one hand is considered an oimer, on the other hand, but Toiras godish law is also considered a godish. In other words, there's no laws of shikha wherever it may be. For example, Toiras oimer will treat like an oimer. If you drop two sheaves, you have to leave it there. But if you drop two plus this, we'll treat it as if you drop three, and you can pick them all up. It's not considered like you forgot about it, you can take it back. So no one is like an oimer. But yet, Toidas Godish Olov, if you left only that, you forgot about it and not dropped. You forgot about it. You forgot only that. It's not shock, you forgot, you left it behind, you forgot to come back. Ain shikha. We're not talking about lekah where you drop it. We're talking about here, you left it behind. It's not shikha, even though it's only one piece, because it's different than an ordinary oimer. It's a big bundle. So we see it has both din as well. This very machlekes of Shimon Chamim is a machlekes of Menachem Yesi and the Rabban. Menachem is a very holy man. He never saw Tzuras Madeya. It was between him and the Rabbanon as to when you makdish, do these trees get pulled into it as well? And what about the boil and dus? That holds no, the trees might get pulled into it, but not the boil and not the dus. Is a machlekes of Menachem. What about you? The label machlekes, but that's the machlekes not Mishnah. Rav Shimon holds that only these trees get pulled in. At least according to Chachamim. He personally, Rav Shimon holds, even these trees do not get pulled in, because he holds that a makdish is no different than mecha. It's completely like mecha, and he also holds that mecha b'ayin yirah mecha, not like Rabbi Kiva. Avoid the halacha is like Rabbi Kiva about mecha b'ayin yafa mecha. So the Gemara says that this halacha is trying to tell you, Kamashlan did Rabbi Menachem Yesi Rab Shimon. He heard that Rabbi Menachem Yesi holds like Rab Shimon. Hadin halacha mecha sabayis. We are almost halfway through Masechta. Almost halfway. Major milestone. So we changed our mind. We proved that it can't be Rabbi Kiva, because then why when you donate the trees, the karka didn't go with it as well? Because exactly, he holds like meicher, getting something in return. Fascinating machlokes. Yeah, but also, how does a person view when you donate tzedakah? So you view it as a you're allowed to test me. Or it's a business deal. If business is not going well, you have troubles in your life, you give tzedakah, like the Alter Rebbe in Tanya the last few days, because you want to access the infinite chesed of Hashem. You don't want any more gvul. You can't deal with gvul. You want something higher than that. It's an investment. That's how Rabbi Shimon sees it. And Rabbi Shimon is Kabbalah, the father of Kabbalah. He sees the primus in Yonim, and that's how he sees it. Amazing, Machlekes.